Not every Battlemech is built to be the master of all that comes before it. Much like in real life, not everyone will end up being at the peak of their chosen careers. Not everyone gets to be the CEO, or a rock star, or any other host of apparently aspirational placements in society. For the mech in this video, it was built, deliberately, to be a thing of the past, and a middling performer. But in the eyes of many, it surprisingly overachieves in spite of the technological and resource limitations imposed upon it. Smartly built and constructed for its middling and diminished tasks, some may even say this mech is a bit of a maverick at what it does, which is mostly neutralizing pirates, bandits, and anyone ballsy enough to attack lightly protected worlds on the fringes of the Federated Suns. A product of Robinson Standard Battleworks, the primary manufacturer of the much more remarkable Atlas Battlemech inside of the Federated Suns, this mech is almost everything its developers could have hoped for. So, let us explore the ultimate participation trophy of the 3050s. The Watchman. When one looks at the 40-ton militia mech known as the Watchman, a mech first produced in 3055, they may believe that this came into the world due to a well-thought-out plan. But sadly no, the Watchman appears to have been something that was slapped together, if only to appease one man, the powerful and important Duke Aaron Sandoval of the Draconis Marches. To give some background, during the clan invasion, many units and localized assets were stripped from non-frontline marches inside of the Federated Suns half of the Federated Commonwealth to deal with the crises developing elsewhere. This left these effective duchies feeling exposed, especially after generations of being on high alert during the succession wars. After the initial clan invasion, many dukes, lords, and counts began making noises regarding their now absent forces. No March Lord, however, was on as high alert, or making their displeasure known so broadly, as the aging, yet influential and powerful, Duke Sandoval, who appeared to believe that his forces were being stripped of anything of value, and that they were being left exposed to a potential threat from the Draconis Combine. By 3055, this was almost laughable. The Combine was at odds with Clan Smoke Jaguar, and had been ravaged by 6 years of warfare with them, as well as Clans Novacat and Ghostbear. The Dragon was in no position to square off with its traditional Davion enemies, but to an old warhorse like Sandoval, he believed, rightly or wrongly, in leaving nothing to chance. Quietly, to resolve the problem, First Prince Hanse Davion, ever the wise politician, opted to deal with the situation by helping the Duke of the Draconis Marches, through Robinson Standard Battleworks, build a new Battlemech, albeit one with very simple components, to protect the duchy's interests. The central government provided this aid by taking on the burden of much of the cost of establishing a production line at Robinson Standard Battleworks. The new, though primitive machines that were produced through this process, the Watchman, became a militia mech that quickly found its footing principally in the Draconis Marches. These Battlemechs, however, were not built from the ground up. In order to save on significant costs, it was decided almost immediately to borrow from another already established machine to fulfill this requirement. The Enforcer was chosen for this for several key reasons. To begin with, by sharing parts with the prolific Enforcer Battlemech, it would make the Watchman easier to manufacture, in that there was an abundance of available Enforcer components that could be drawn from and could subsidize this material need. It also meant that the WTC series would be easier to repair too, due to using many of the same parts from a centuries-in-use war asset like the Enforcer. More intriguingly, the mech's cockpit was also heavily redesigned internally from its Enforcer cousin, to be as simple as possible to pilot. Now, literacy rates in the Federated Suns may not be the best, but this was done for two other and quite clear reasons. One was that the Watchman would double as a training mech for new Mechwarriors, who often came up through localized ranks in Hanse Davion. And the other is, well, it's a militia mech. And militias are not well known for having the highest quality soldiers and mech warriors, sadly. Still, the Watchman would become a breakout star during and after the FedCom Civil War. To see why this dull-edged product flourished, we just need to look at what its future buyers saw for it. The WTC performed well for a 40-ton mech from the time of its introduction, in spite of using old technologies. Its simplistic build and low requirements for support also meant that even when pulled from its militia role, it performed admirably in several long campaigns while on the attack. Its rugged frame and abundant replacement parts were also a huge selling point too. Able to be refit and put back into the front at high speeds during action, the mech became a force multiplier for the armies that deployed it. After this was discovered, in particular after a series of battles between the Draconis March and Draconis Combine, this seeming mistake of history, this machine built only as a token offering, exploded in popularity as demand for the mech shot through the roof. By all metrics, this very standard Battlemech was a success. Indeed, it even still finds operational usage inside of the Federated Suns almost 100 years after its introduction, in its original form, despite its very primitive technology. It's as I've always said, simplicity works. The first and primary configuration of this Robson Standard Battleworks machine is none other than the WTC-4M Watchman. This 40-ton generalist militia mech has a host of great virtues, but none of them are advanced in any way by Battletech standards. First constructed in 3055, it continues to see service all the way into the Ilclan era, mostly in the Federated Suns, but also in surrounding Periphery nations. It's very easy to go over its features, so let's get started. It has a 4-ton internal structure, and of course a standard gyro and cockpit. To keep the mech cool, and almost accomplishing this goal, it has 12 standard heat sinks. I can tell that you're all stunned by its sophisticated system so far, but let's continue. When it comes to electronics, the WTC-4M comes with the Achener Electronics HICS-11 communications package, and the Federated Hunter targeting and tracking system. While none of these things are particularly sophisticated, in the advanced rules, the Watchman is more than well served. First, it has the rugged trait, as you would expect, followed by the easy to maintain quirk, and then easy to pilot. All of these are great in larger operation campaigns. Older technology doesn't mean bad, because the Watchman is reasonably quick and agile for its tonnage and overall profile, able to keep pace with other Inner Sphere mediums, and move faster than the Inner Sphere's line of battle formations during the 31st century. This mech is more than adequately serviced by its onboard power plant, and to show you why, it is because it is powered by an 8.5-ton Nissan 200 standard fusion engine, giving the maximum speed of 86 km per hour, or 8 movement points in the tabletop game. To make this even better, the designers included 5 jump jets on board as well, letting it leap up to 150 meters, or 5 movement points in the tabletop game. This is excellent, without question. It can generate reasonable defensive buffs, its grace is secured with its significant jump ability, and this also allows it to brawl, skirmish, or escape dangerous situations as well, and it can keep pace with other medium mechs as needed. Overall, it has an excellent array of attributes for its cost in the realm of mobility. You're all going to be shocked to hear this, but the Watchman has almost no advanced technologies to help it in the realm of protection. I know, I didn't mean to lay something so heavy on you so quickly in this segment. It's almost like Hanse Davion built this thing on the cheap. That's fine though, between its mobility and its substantial plating, it's actually, for its weight, quite well guarded. Oh, it does have one nicety, which is that it has a case to protect its machine gun ammunition. A great addition, if there ever was one. Simply put, the main show for this Steel Guardian is its 8.5 tons of Starshield A standard armored plating, giving it 136 points of protection. For a 40-tonner, that's pretty great. Yeah, it's not got an ECM, or an AMS, or stealth armor, or even ferrofibrous plating, but who cares? It has what it needs for its cost. What more could you ask for? You're in a Watchman, my friend. You knew what you were in for. Offensive power on a lot of inner sphere light and medium mechs is often found wanting by this era of the setting, and in major engagements. And this highlights the Watchman's one true shortcoming. That doesn't mean it's bad, and for its era, and for its technology, it's not severely undergunned. And it does have the virtue of being able to tackle multiple target types as well, but its damage and fighting abilities are limited. Delving first into its primary weapon, which is mounted on the left arm, it has a Chiscomp 43 Special large laser, letting it reach out to 15 hexes to strike targets. This weapon is its main hole puncher, though 8 damage won't be particularly impressive against anything heavier than itself. It's still a great tool against light mechs and light mediums, as well as tanks. When combined with its jump jets and the right terrain, it may be able to peek, snipe, and harass using this system as well. Next up, in the right arm, it has a pair of Chiscomp 39 medium lasers. These are the most mainstream weapon the Inner Sphere has had throughout its history, even into the later eras like the Dark Age. They offer an amazing return on investment for heat, damage, and range, and they will serve any mech well. Unsurprisingly, the Watchman benefits from them too. Finally, it has a pair of left arm mounted machine guns, letting it either brawl with lighter mechs in close, or letting it shred infantry foolish enough to attempt to engage this militia-based sentinel. Overall, while its damage potential is not the best, its somewhat diverse array of offensive tools makes the most of its allocated tonnage. In terms of its overall use on the battlefield, the WTC-4M Watchman brings a lot to the table for what it is. It's cheap, it's easy to pilot, it's somewhat decently cooled for its tech level, it moves at a meaningful rate, and it benefits from having quite surprising levels of protection for a 40-ton mech with its overall technological limitations. Its mobility and armor give it options on the battlefield. Its simplistic systems make it hard to cripple, barring ripping through its entire frame. The only key weakness the mech has is that it is a bit of a light puncher, but it is still workable regardless. Another notable issue is it has no backup torso weaponry, meaning despite not having an XL engine, it is not a zombie mech. Once both the arms are off, so is the Watchman's effective time on the battlefield. All the same, it's a lot sharper of a mech than you might give it credit for, just seeing its stat sheet. Never underestimate your enemy, because if they are worth their salt, they'll not underestimate you. Time would march onwards, as it does for all of us, and while the WTC-4M would remain in production, the WTC-4DM came to life in 3063, as a modified configuration of the original. This variant does abandon the original's near pure Introtech features, and opts to begin to use increasingly broadly available Lost Tech systems that the Draconis March had access to. These quality of life features more or less made the mech a stronger pure fighter, and a stronger anti-mech asset, but at the cost of a marginally higher production value and its in-game battle value. Where once the Watchman only had single heat sinks, this configuration has doubles, and where once it had 8.5 tons of standard armor plating, it has 8 tons of ferrofibrous armor. Outside of this, the changes are extremely simple. It removes the machine guns on board, their ammunition, its case, and its large laser to install a single PPC. That's it. It becomes a jumping PPC sniper mech that can attempt to shut down enemy offense in close with a pair of medium lasers. There's nothing wrong with the design, but it will struggle in an infantry-heavy environment. It punches bigger holes in targets, and it has a better range. Vehicles and mechs should be more concerned if they see this scrappy mech spying them on the battlefield. The greatest deviation from the original, and a much more expensive and technologically sophisticated design, the WTC-4DM2, is everything the original is not, for both good and for ill. Its standard engine is replaced with a 200 light fusion engine, making it lighter, but at the cost of making the machine more vulnerable to engine destruction. It retains its double heatsinks and ferrofibrous plating from the standard 4DM, but takes out all of its prior weapon systems in order to install a new advanced set. To start with, in its right arm, it has a large re-engineered laser. This carves through specialist armor types, like ferrolamellar and hardened plating, though its effectiveness outside of this is limited to that of a glorified large laser. After this, it has 2 ER flamers for inviting infantry to a local barbecue. These are also in its right arm too. And then it has 2 mag-shot Gauss rifles. These lightweight Gauss rifles are a bit of a controversial choice, as they have great range for their weight, but they hit for very little damage. As Gauss weaponry too, they can cause issues if they are struck by enemy fire, adding another layer of vulnerability to the mech beyond its light fusion engine. Overall, the 4DM2 feels like a machine that may struggle to find its place in the world. It's no longer a militia mech in this state, but is it solid enough to deliver on the battlefield? And is it truly as rugged and reliable as it once was? I'd argue no. Perhaps there is a reason why its 2 predecessors are still broadly available in the same markets, even after the introduction of this new, cutting-edge machine. Hanse Davion is responsible for a lot of achievements in his lifetime. Little did the Inner Sphere know that all of his campaigning, statecraft, and martial skill would be left to the wayside of history, because his true, most incredible accomplishment in life was his role in building the Watchman, in order to prevent Duke Sandoval from complaining as vocally and frequently as he was. Alright, all jokes aside, the Watchman is a mech with a bit more history and fascination than you might expect. A machine born of convenience, in order to solve a political problem. It turned out to be better than it had any right to be. With it being low-tech, in an era of high-powered machines, it carved out a niche for itself that made it undeniably effective in both the defense and the attack, all while doing it on a cheap budget. Going into later eras too, the platform would transform with time. But the original and first Watchman, the WTC-4M, is the one most people think of when they hear its name. It is an impressive, easy-to-use machine that can be built in huge numbers and can be given to little-trained mech warriors. The mech then went on to prove its virtues by being able to participate in battlefields it was not designed for. It is in its own way one of the best war machines of the 3050s, even if you probably haven't heard of it. So, when there is something sinister afoot in the less guarded regions of the Federated Suns, don't fret, because the Watchman will be on duty to protect the citizens of this proud, noble, and responsible nation. Pirates, snakes, cows, and Capellans, beware! Because when there's trouble about, you'd best watch out for the Watchman. Adapt and flourish. A greetings to new citizens of the Federated Suns. Thank you all for joining me here today. First, I want to apologize for the lower rate of content releases since Christmas. As a quick aside, I hope everyone had a happy New Year's. I've still been streaming almost daily, but from Christmas to last Saturday, I was almost entirely working on the Warhammer 2C script, audio, and on-screen assets. I've taken it as far as I reasonably can, while still waiting for more of Alan's brilliant artwork to be finished, but also to wait on several other assets to allow the video's visuals to come into their own. It's going to end up being over 3.5 hours long, and I hope everyone enjoys it as much as I've enjoyed making it. I'm really excited about this one. Video production will still be slow going until it's released, which will hopefully be this month, or worst case scenario in early February. Outside of the Warhammer 2C, the Tempest and the Gunslinger are planned as the next videos to be covered on the channel. So with all of that, if you enjoyed this video, remember to hit like and consider subscribing. Come on, you know you want to. The primary resources I used to make this video, and the Iron Wind metal link to the current sculpt of the Watchman as of the making of this, will be found in the top pinned comment beneath the video. Just before we sign out here, I also want to give a huge thank you to all the YouTube channel members as well. I can only complete these projects, as you know, because of viewers like you. So, what did you all think of the Watchman? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you there.